Sonya Massey. For me, that is a name that now goes along with Laquan McDonald, George Floyd, and so many others, all three victims of police brutality that ended their lives. I was assigned to this story a little more than 15 days after Massey was shot and killed by Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson. My coverage started the day after the release of the body cam footage on July 22nd. Now, this all started with a 911 call Massey made shortly before 1 a.m. on Saturday, July 6th.
Why would it hurt you? You called us.
Okay,
So what'd you hear?
somebody keeps outside my house, y'all.
Now, Grayson and his partner are responding to Massey's report of a possible prowler in the area where Massey lives in Springfield, Illinois. Now, that's a little more than 200 miles southwest of Chicago. Eventually, Grayson and his partner enter Massey's home. It is important to point out that Grayson did not turn on his body cam, but his partner did. At some point during Massey's interaction with deputies, she goes into the kitchen and moves a pot of boiling water. This now becomes the focus. It is now the focus that leads to this fatal shooting.
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Drop the pot! Drop the pot!
Grayson was fired from the department. He was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of Sonya Massey. Now, Grayson has pleaded not guilty, and he remains in police custody. For many Chicago civil rights activists, what happened to Massey took them back 10 years to the fatal Chicago police shooting of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald. I mentioned that in the beginning.
17-year-old Laquan McDonald was shot and killed. That happened on the night of October 20th, 2014. A teen with a knife, 5 police squads, 1 officer firing 16 times, many of the shots to his back. Police said the officer's life was in danger, but the unreleased video, said attorneys for the family of Laquan McDonald, proved otherwise.
That shooting took over the city, and it took over the nation. I will never forget that. The teen shooting was also captured on video, and just like in Massey's case, that officer that was involved in the shooting was also charged. Now, here in Chicago, support for Massey's family was shown during a rally at New Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church on July 30th. That's where attorney Ben Crump, he represents the family, and national civil rights activist Al Sharpton, who has spoken out on a lot of these police brutality cases, both spoke out.
This is a wake-up call to us. We got black faces in high places in Illinois. Will stand up and do something.
We say it to the Sangamon County until we get full justice on behalf of Sonya Massey. We rebuke you in the name of Jesus. We say it to the state of Illinois until we get full justice for Sonya Massey. We rebuke you in the name of Jesus. We say it to the United States of America. Until we get justice for Sonya Massey, we rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Chicago activists also spoke out before that rally, and I had the chance to sit down with Reverend Marshall Hatch. The rally was held at his church, and Reverend Ira Ackrey. Both of these men have responded, they have reacted, and they have taken action after issues of police brutality right here in the city of Chicago. I asked them about seeing the video for the very first time.
The video was horrific, and it is worse than almost anything I've seen, having been on the scene several times where there were police shootings. It was absolutely inexplicably unnecessary. It just did not have to happen. And of course, you know, Sonya should be alive today. This is a horrific police killing.
When I looked at that video, my heart was broken because I could just put myself in that position. That could have been my daughter, could have been my younger sister. This could have happened to anyone. It's so horrific. When you look at it, here is a young woman in the sanctity and sanctuary of her own home.
Now, one of the many questions being asked after what happened to Sonya Massey is, why does this keep happening? We talked about what happened to Laquan McDonald 10 years ago, right here in Chicago. Also 10 years ago, Eric Garner was choked to death by police in New York.
2014 chokehold death of Eric Garner. The black man whose dying cries of "I can't breathe" sparked a national debate over police use of force.
And then there is George Floyd, who was murdered by a white Minneapolis police officer in 2020. I asked Reverend Hatch and Reverend Ackery about this continually happening.
Obviously, there's a pattern. Laquan McDonald is one case, of course, that was on videotape. We also had both funerals here in 1 week for Quintonia LaGreer and Betty Jones, a double police homicide. And so there's something systemic that's going on. We absolutely have to look at the qualifications of these police officers. In the case of the police officer that killed Sonya Massey, he was on his 6th department in 4 years. He was released by the military for misconduct. He had no business being a police officer. 2 DUIs. We simply have to do something to address systemically what it means to have these unhealthy police officers turned loose in communities with a gun and a badge.
Reverend Ackery says many times in the past, police brutality against the black and brown community has not been captured on video because body cameras did not exist at the time. In this case, and in so many others, Reverend Ackery says body cam or just security video from businesses or people's homes can help corroborate a story just like what happened here with the fatal shooting of Massey.
Thank God for the body cams. Thank God for the body cams. Can you imagine if there were not body cams? We've seen the pattern of them making up stories and lying on police reports, but we saw with our own eyes. And so we're praying that the legal representation will take this all the way to the highest court, wherever it needs to go, with the support of communities, not only in Springfield and in Chicago, but in every urban community across this nation. You know, this has to stop, and it won't stop until we keep on pushing. We've come a long way. We just got a much longer way to go, but we have made some progress.
Ackery and Hatch and so many others have called on the Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell to step down. Many say the root of this police brutality problem starts at the top. Massey's father says it is a culture problem that led to his daughter's murder. Massey's father, James Wilburn, was one of the first people to demand that Sheriff Campbell step down.
I'm calling for the sheriff's resignation because I think it's a culture to treat this family this bad, to call these lies. If it were not for that camera footage, we as a people, they would have lied, and they'd have lied their way right out of this. So he needs to resign. So no matter who of his emissaries try to come and talk to me, I'm not going to talk to anybody unless my attorney's with me, because you will never twist anything I said.
It took Sheriff Campbell nearly a month to finally speak out. Massey's family has been upset with the entire Sangamon County Sheriff's Office because they were told more than one incorrect version of that fatal shooting. The family says they were first told that a neighbor shot Massey, and then at some point they were told that it might have been self-inflicted. We're still waiting to hear from Sangamon County and also possibly Grayson himself to see what the family was told. Now, Sheriff Campbell says he is not stepping down, but did admit that his department failed Sonya Massey.
I offer up no excuses. What I do is offer our attempt to do better, to be better. You will probably never know why he did what he did.
He should resign. And we've seen that play out on the national stage just recently. Once there was an assassination attempt made on a former president, then the Secret Service director has to resign, because responsibility and accountability always starts at the top. So that at a minimum, that's what should happen, even as we all work to make sure this family gets the justice they deserve.
Some other major questions that have emerged from the fatal police shooting of Sonya Massey is, what are the solutions? How do you address a problem that appears to keep on happening throughout this country? One of the things that has consistently come up after this particular shooting is the future of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Now, this is a federal bill. It was introduced back in 2021. It passed the House, but it ended up stalling in the Senate.
The legislation named in George Floyd's honor would lower the standard required to prosecute police officers for misconduct, give the Justice Department the ability to get its hands on more records, and limit the legal protection officers have in some civil cases.
George's legacy will not be just about his death, but about what we must do in his memory.
The bill addresses a wide range of policies and issues regarding policing practices and law enforcement accountability. One thing it can do is create a database, a nationwide one, that tracks officers when they go from department to department. The Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board website says that Sean Grayson worked at 6 different departments or sheriff's departments in just 4 years. The Reverend Al Sharpton talked about this during the rally in Chicago for Sonya Massey.
This officer worked in 6 different jurisdictions inside of 4 years. 6, which would have been illegal under the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
2 DUIs?
DUIs he had 2 before he became law enforcement. And whatever the altercations that led to his having to leave them, all of that would have had to be open during an open process for review if the George Floyd bill had been passed.
This was also a major subject for local activists who fought for a federal consent decree that is focused on the Chicago Police Department because of past issues with police brutality. Every time this type of police brutality happens against the Black and brown community, activists say they try really, really hard to make some sort of progress.
This has to stop, and it won't stop until we keep on pushing. We've come a long way. We just got a much longer way to go, but we have made some progress. We were part of the ministers and the civil rights leaders and elected officials who marched around City Hall to try to bring a consent decree here in Chicago. So we just got to keep pushing, and we cannot let up.
Congress needs to take seriously the George Floyd bill, which would have to do with, changes in police reform nationally, where at least there's in some way a database where an officer like this would have been flagged before a tragedy like this, where he simply cannot go from department to department. Or we have 50 different ways we certify policing in the 50 states, as opposed to some kind of national certification so that the citizens can trust that, rogue officers are being red flagged, are being spotted and taken out of commission before they could commit something like this.
Attorney Ben Crump, who once again represents the family, says Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton both met with the Massey family and expressed outrage about what they saw on the body cam video. Now, the governor's office has confirmed this meeting happened, but says information from that meeting remains private. But they did say that his office is committed to racial justice in Illinois. Ben Crump says the governor's administration vowed to do something to honor Sonya Massey's memory.
He said that he endeavored to be a partner in justice with the family. He said he was disgusted with what he saw in the video, and he committed to sign whatever legislation that Senator Doris Turner was offering to make sure that an officer couldn't go from district to district. Reverend, now he thought that they had already covered this in a sweeping police reform bill they signed in 2021. And so he was just shocked that this deputy could move around like this.
Governor Pritzker signed into law the Safety Act, which made Illinois the first state in the nation to entirely eliminate cash bail. It was passed and signed into law in 2021, but it was challenged by some lawmakers and did not go into effect until 2 years later. The elimination of cash bail is just one of many provisions in that law. Lawmakers who supported the SAFETY Act say it also addresses the creation of an officer database.
We had a call recently about some of the implementation work that we were doing on the SAFETY Act, working with law enforcement. And one of the things that was specifically put into the SAFETY Act was the prohibition on these department hopping. And that's one of the things that looks like may have happened in this case. I would certainly want to see and let the investigation play out and see what happened. But in reality, we've got to make sure that the individuals who shouldn't be law enforcement officers aren't law enforcement officers.
Now, we're going to have to wait and see how this is all going to play out. Again, Sean Grayson has pleaded not guilty. Grayson is facing 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count each of aggravated battery with a firearm and official misconduct in connection with the Massey shooting. The Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council has come to his defense, and the agency filed a grievance saying that the former deputy who shot Sonya Massey in the face was terminated without just cause. The FOP wants Grayson reinstated, a reimbursement of all of his lost wages, and a full restoration of his benefits. Now, of course, this story is not over. We're going to continue to follow it. You can watch it on NBC Chicago, of course, Channel 5, but you can also follow this story and get really good coverage on our website, NBC Chicago, and also our mobile app, NBC Chicago.